Hello. Don't know if anyone is watching this or not, um, but I will paste the um, address to join the stream in the live chat in case anyone wants to. Well, not the live chat, the comments. In case anyone wants to get in on the stream and share their opinions or their thoughts or whatever about about my planned topic. Um, So let's see. Let's see. To join, just typing this in, the live stream, go to, and there's the link. Okay. And that is in there. It's a political topic, so anybody who doesn't want to, you know, discuss politics on the air might want to avoid that. Hello. Hi, Billy. Hi, Tafo. Um, yeah. So what I wanted to talk about is, well, we've got an election coming up. Depending on where you're at, it may be later today or it may be tomorrow. Um, but yeah, where I'm at, it's going to be tomorrow, which starts in like 3 hours. And it's the midterm elections, and a lot of people think those are somewhat unconsequential. They're not. Uh, the only real difference between the midterm elections and the other elections is that they don't. What? Forgot to ask if that shirt has long or short sleeves. Short sleeves. um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the midterm election doesn't have a presidential election. That's the big difference, and there are a lot of people elected in elected offices in government in the United States, not just at the federal level, but at state level and county level and city level as well, who are not the president uh, or the vice president, and so that is to be considered, and we have a chance to also affect referendums and things like that that are on your local ballot, um, whatever they happen to be for the area that you live in. Um, you want to be a mysterious floating head, huh? I'm not mysterious, am I? So yeah, but I would like to encourage people to try to make a difference in the election, and I'd like to explain how that works. Here's the thing: people are generally told that they, either will win or they won't win, and that leaves them with the impression that there's nothing they can do about it. That they're either going to win because it was predetermined, or they're going to not win because it was predetermined. Whatever outcome they want, they can't affect whether or not that outcome actually happens. And so they're told. And that's not true. We can affect what outcome happens. We do have a say in the matter. What we don't have is any one of us doesn't have complete say in the matter. None of us gets to make the full decision all by ourselves of who gets elected. But we can change the odds. And anybody who tries to tell you how do you subscribe to my YouTube channel, there should be a subscribe button somewhere. I'm not sure where they're putting it lately. It depends on I think what device you're on. Um, and yeah, they move it around from time to time. Uh, it's funny that such things. So many people in their videos, they say things like, leave a comment down below. Well, I think, yeah, most of the time these days the comments are down below, but they weren't always. And when they were over on the right, people would say leave a comment on the right. you know, so yeah, I I like the way the channel Journey to the Microcosmos handles the whole subscribe thing. They're like, at the end of every one of their videos, they say something to the effect of, and there should be a subscribe button around here somewhere or something like that. I forget their exact wording, but they're consistent about it. And yeah, not telling people where it's at, just telling people, it should be around someplace. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you're on a phone, and I'm not sure about on a computer, but yeah, on a phone, you have to close the live chat to see those buttons, and then you can open the live chat back up again. Um, yeah, they're hidden. I forget whether or not that's the same on a computer system. So, at any rate, yeah, I know it should be a really obvious thing, but a lot of people don't seem to get it, that it's not about deciding who wins or loses. It's about making a little nudge in the direction of what your preference is. If there aren't any candidates that you actually approve of, the way our voting is, and I will say this should change, and I have some very specific instructions I'd like to give people, not for them to follow my instructions, but for what they can do if they really want to make a positive difference in upcoming elections. Um, but for now, we have to deal with the system the way it is. And the way the system is, we're only allowed to cast a one-faceted vote in most places in the United States, and we're only allowed to have one facet of our vote counted. Even if a person happens to be lucky enough to be in an area that has um, ranked choice voting with an instant runoff, uh, they're still only counting one facet of your vote. Yes, you get to cast more than one facet. If you have two different candidates that you approve of, you can vote for both of them, but you have to list one as your highest priority and the other one as a lower priority. And if your highest priority candidate gets the least votes of anyone, then they'll count your lower priority, your second priority candidate instead. And if that one gets the least votes of anyone, then they'll count your third priority candidate instead, if you have one. And if you don't list a second priority and a third priority and so on, if all the ones you did list get eliminated through that process of being counted as the one with the least votes for them, then your vote ends up not in the end being counted at all. Um, so I'm not saying that ranked choice voting is bad. It's much better than a system that only lets you cast one facet of your vote and then only counts that one facet of your vote and just ignores the fact that you might have more things to your intended vote than just that one facet. Yeah, thanks, Billy, by the way. And so what I'd like to suggest is, in this election, now I know there are some people out there who think the Democratic Party is way better than the Republican Party, and some people who think the Republican Party is way better than the Democratic Party. But I am going to suggest that people look at the individual candidates and what they're actually offering, not the rumors you've heard from the candidate running against them, not the rumors you've heard from the political party that they're not a member of, but what things they personally say they're going to do, and also how believable those things are. I mean, I know of one particular candidate who's running for a position here in Los Angeles, where I'm at, who's saying some pretty ridiculous things about stuff they're going to do, and I don't believe them. So there's that. And even if I were to believe them, some of the stuff that they're saying they're going to do on the surface might sound like a really good thing, but when you really stop and think about it, it may or may not be, and probably isn't. Like, for example, there's a mention of what was it? They're going to make 30,000 homeless beds. Well, we've already got a lot of homeless people. Do we really need homeless beds? No, that's just humor. Um, maybe in bad taste there, considering the subject, but couldn't resist. But no, seriously though, what are they going to do with these beds? I mean, the homeless people don't have a home to put the bed in. What are they? Is this like, let's keep them homeless permanently? Let's make, just make a place for them to sleep and stay homeless. The person, that is running against that one is talking about actually getting them places to live, not just beds. And homeless beds where you can just stay homeless but have a bed, somebody else's bed. um so yeah, but I have my opinion. Other people are going to have their opinions. The thing is, represent your opinion. Don't represent your political party's opinion because their political party told you to. Again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, I'm making a suggestion. Represent your opinion, because that's what democracy is all about, is count all of our opinions. But if you really want to do democracy right, do your due diligence to form an opinion that is based on as many facts as you can get a hold of, as much evidence as you can get a hold of. Look into things. It's not an easy thing to do. When you get to the referendum section on your ballot, um, look over the details of each referendum. Don't just look at the title. It's going to take longer to vote that way. But democracy is not a spectator sport. It's not something where you sit back and you cheer on the team you hope is going to win and play no part in it. if if you want it to be a real democracy, you have to work on it. I mean, otherwise other people will get their democracy and you won't get yours because you didn't play a part. What's Billy saying? If never voted, been smart when it comes to politics. My concern is they will probably raise taxes to get those homes. Well, if you're already paying a lot in taxes, and if that is affecting your income, then I could see being worried about paying even more taxes. And yeah, that's the thing. If you can, and I know there's not a lot of time left now, and I should have made this video a while ago, but I really haven't been feeling up to it. But to the extent you can, look into how they plan to fund the things they're saying they're going to do, and whether or not they actually have a plan of how they're going to do things, or are people just saying stuff. Again, the candidate I mentioned earlier that I've been thinking, not such a good idea here, is seemingly just kind of looking at what the other candidate actually has plans for and saying, yeah, I'll do that and twice as much of it. Well, how? But I mean, well, they're basically saying things that come off on the surface sounding that way, but when you listen more carefully, when you really look at the details of what they're saying, they're not saying they're going to do the same thing and more of it. They're saying that they're going to do something that, worded a certain way, kind of sounds like it's the same thing and more of it, but it's not really the same thing at all. And yeah, yeah, homeless people getting a place to live does cost money, and unfortunately, the super rich have taken all of that money. Uh, I don't know. So many people think that we have inflation going on right now because well, various reasons. The main reason we have so much inflation going on is because rich corporations decided to get richer, rich CEOs decided to get richer, rich organizations decided to get richer. Basically, they're exploiting the fact that the people need stuff. People need goods and services, and they're going, well, you know what, the people are going through a hard time right now. They need this stuff desperately, so they'll pay through the nose, whatever it takes. And yeah, so they've just been raising their prices and padding their own pockets, their own bank accounts. And we really need to raise taxes on those people, not everybody. But we do need to raise taxes on the people who are benefiting most from society. Bernie Sanders calls that a windfall tax. That's one way of doing it. There are other ways as well, but the windfall tax would not be a bad idea. When I mean, basically what they're doing is they're price gouging, which is illegal, but it's kind of hard to prove when they do it a little bit at a time. And rather than like, oh, this disaster happened, let's raise our prices all at once. If they do that, okay, they violated the law. It's clear, it's obvious. Still, somebody's got to take them to court over it, or there are no consequences for them. I've seen price gouging. I know how bad it can get. Well, I know at least how bad I've seen it get. And yeah, it can be pretty bad. I would say it probably can get even worse than I've seen it. So, yeah, oh, by the way, I guess the I'm what I'm looking at when I see if somebody puts a comment in while or is it live chat? Yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah. Um, I guess whatever it is, any rate, the Billy, can you tell me, or Taffel, can you tell me, it is live chat? Okay, yeah, that's coming up on my screen. And I don't think that will show in the video after it's uploaded. There might be a way that I can set it to show that, and I'm not quite sure how to do that at the moment. So just for anybody who's watching this after the live stream is over, I will try to read as much as I can of what's going on in the live chat as it comes up here. Tava says not only have the corporations been raising prices, but sizes of items have been getting smaller. Yeah, I've noticed that too. Yeah, it's like oh, if the people don't want to pay more money, let's just give them less for the same amount. Yeah, there's a lot of that's been going on, and that's the world we're living in right now. We the people are supporting the rich getting richer and richer and richer, which in a sense is kind of like, we're electing for them to have more power. The problem is we don't have much say in the matter because if they all raise their prices at once on things that we need, we still need those things. And $6 for half a bag of chips. Yeah. Portions and food. Yeah, I've noticed. Yeah, I was commenting to someone, and this is not just recent, but over time. I was looking at, what was it, Reese's peanut butter cups, I think, and telling somebody that I remember when these things cost like a nickel or a dime, and they were bigger than this. So what are you going to do? Yeah, one in my opinion, sort of humorous side effect of the whole price thing, and this, again, it's been going on for years, but you look at years and years ago, people had nickel stores and dime stores. I think before that there were penny stores, and eventually they got up to the point where they were dollar stores instead. And now it's gotten to the point where instead of like dollar stores, meaning everything is a dollar or everything is a dollar or less, instead we're getting all these things that are like various forms of dollar or more stores. So they're still getting the word dollar in their name because it attracts people, but they're saying, like dollar plus or dollar or more or anything to indicate that like the lowest priced item they have is $1. Like that somehow tells you you're going to get good prices there because nothing is under $1. Um, oh yeah, yeah. The size of toilet paper rolls. Toilet paper squares used to be 4 inch by 4 inch on a regular roll. Now the mega roll or a larger size is less than 4 inch by 4 inch. Yeah, actually, that abbreviation would be 4 feet by 4 feet, but I know what you meant. uh, yeah, yeah, and well, I mean, okay, if you look from a practical point of view, it makes more sense, to have a smaller, to have the perforations more often because you have more options for what size um, piece of toilet paper you want to get off the roll. But um, uh, then when they do things like saying, like putting on the label, like, twice as many, uh, sheets or twice as many squares or whatever as the other brand. Yeah, there's a lot of deceptive advertisement that goes on, and of course, if they're not square, then they're if they say twice as many squares, they're not really being honest. But uh, there again, if nobody takes them to court over it, if there isn't a class action lawsuit or something, they get away with it. And so here's the thing: the Democratic Party and the Republican Party have been getting away with something for a very long time that a lot of people in our government don't want to get away with, but they haven't got any way to stop getting away with it. And so let me try to explain that in a little more detail. Now, I think the Republican Party, it seems the Republican Party has just given up on this facade of saying, they're going to do anything for the people. They're just like, no, we're all about the rich. You might be rich someday, so vote for us because, when you're rich, we'll be on your side. Well, a very, very small percentage of us will ever be rich. And those of us who will be rich, a very small percentage of those people will ever be rich enough that those politicians will actually do anything for them because they're doing it all for the richest of the richest of the rich. And the reason why they keep getting away with doing that is because the people find themselves in a predicament where they can't do anything about it. We're told, for example, well, vote them out. Well, how? You can't vote against them. Well, you vote for the other guy. Well, what if the other guy's just as bad? Or what if you have been told lies about both parties and you don't know what lies to believe or whether or not any of those lies might be true? So what I would like to recommend for this election and for between this election and the next election, and I know it's too late to recommend for this election. Very few people are going to hear this. I don't know how the results are going to turn out. We'll find out. But the results will turn out differently if enough people vote differently. So for this election, vote for the candidates you think will fight the most for the people, not for the general population, not for the super rich, because they don't need our help right now. They're doing fine. As a matter of fact, they're doing phenomenally well. They're not going through any kind of a recession. They're not having a hard time financially. The taxes are not hurting them. They've got more money than they could possibly figure out how to spend. And they can take out loans pretty much whenever they want because, they've got uh, things they can put down as collateral against those loans. And if they aren't able to pay those loans off, well, then they can take out another loan to pay that loan. So I mean, the thing about being that rich though is that they never run into that situation of they can't pay a loan off. Some of them do run into a situation where they just decide not to, and then they pay the credit tracking agencies or whatever to erase that from their credit score. So they still have, perfect credit scores because they've got money. They can do things like that. Um, but what is this? That was one of their ads was now with more squares, but it was more because they were smaller. Yeah, yeah. Total square footage went down. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing. They can always, if they're taking the court over it, they can always say, well, it wasn't deception. We were using square in a colloquial sense. Like it had square angles, 90-degree angles, like a rectangle. Well, then say rectangle. If you mean rectangle, say rectangle. Don't call them squares. Don't say there's more squares. They could say there are more rectangles. But if people were to take them to court over that and say, no, this was deceptive advertisement, technically even false advertisement, because it's not more squares, they could point that out to the court, to the judge or the jury or whatever they've got, and say, look, this, they didn't have to word it that way. It seems obvious that the reason they worded it that way was to deceive people. So, but there's a problem with that too, and that is that most of us are too poor to take anyone to court. We can't afford to hire an attorney. Can't even afford to take someone to court without an attorney. Um, yeah, and there again, so they get away with it consistently. So what I was going to say is, between now and the next election, let's change one thing if we can. Pass this around to other people, if you would. Get people to watch this video and hear me out. I mean, however far into this it is, you can give them a timestamp or whatever. But tell the politicians, if they want to keep their job, if they want to get reelected in the next election, if they want people to believe that they actually care about the people at all, fight for, and publicly fight for, the removal of the restriction wherever it exists that tells a voter they can only vote for a certain number of candidates in a given position. For example, the most common one is one seat available in an office, and the instructions usually say something like vote for only one. Replace that with vote for as many as you want. Now, you might think that'll make no difference at all, because we usually only have two candidates. And it wouldn't make any sense to vote for both of them, because how are you going to change the election results that way? But the thing is, once we have that ability to vote for more than one, we're much less likely to have only two candidates running in a given election. We will get more choices, because, first off, good candidates won't have to feel that they have to quit before voting starts in the primaries or the general election. They won't have to feel that they have to quit before voting starts, because they won't have to worry that they might take votes away from another good candidate. That's a big reason why good candidates quit. And the best ones, the ones who care the most about other people, are generally the first ones to quit for that reason, because they care about the other people, including the other candidates. And they go, well, I don't want to take votes away from this other candidate, because if I take votes away from this other candidate, then this worst candidate might beat them. So they don't want to speak against the other candidate. They don't want to stay in and get some votes that split the votes between them and the other candidate. So they quit first. Well, we could get rid of that. We could do away with that whole quitting to help another candidate thing, because they could help another candidate and stay in the race. They could say all the good things they want about somebody competing against them that they think is also a good candidate, and also speak well of themselves, and not have to worry that anybody's going to have to decide, do they vote for one candidate or the other candidate? Do they vote for, which one of the two good ones are they going to vote for? And there again, we usually start with a bunch of candidates who end up dropping out. The best ones usually drop out first. and the second best drop out next. I mean, it's not exactly in that order, but roughly speaking, the third best one drops out third, and the fourth best one drops out fourth. And eventually, we've got nothing left except those who thought only of themselves and basically went, I'm staying in no matter what, even though I know it will take votes away from all these other candidates because it's all about me. What's this one? Disclaimer: toilet paper is not the only thing I have noticed, but I use that example because it is likely to be in most everyone's homes. Yes, this is true. Um, it is a good example of something that has been made into smaller proportions, and had the price jacked up. Um, I don't know. I mean, I some people might think that I shouldn't laugh about such things because it's hurting people, and yes, it hurts people, but you got to keep a sense of humor to get through this stuff. I mean, it's just too hard otherwise. So I really recommend that people try to keep their sense of humor up, but also look at the big picture as much as you can. Look at the details as much as you can. Look at data as much as you can. Look at facts and statistics as much as you can, and recognize the difference between probable and absolute. If somebody if there's a poll, for example, that says one candidate is more likely to win than the other, that doesn't mean your vote has no chance of affecting that. What it has is an absolute chance of affecting those odds. When you vote, the odds change because you voted. They change a small amount, but somebody else might be voting the same way as you, and that also changes it a small amount in that same direction. We need better elections than we have. We need, better ballots than we have, and a better system of counting them. Well, actually, the system that's in most of the elections in the United States, um, would be able to count a multifaceted vote, because when you have, for example, a particular office that has, say, 5 seats or 4 seats or whatever, that has multiple seats available for the same office, there are a few, I don't know, off the top of my head, I can't name one, but there are a few positions like that in at least some areas, and so for those elections, generally, for example, if there's 5 seats available, the instructions will say vote for up to 5. And if you vote for 4, they'll count your vote. If you vote for 3, they'll count your vote. If you vote for 5, they'll count your vote. If you vote for 2 candidates, they'll count your vote. If you vote for 1 candidate, they'll count your vote. If you don't vote at all, most of them will not count your vote. Um, in the rare event that they might have a none of the above, then they'll count your vote as you didn't vote for any of them, but you did vote. And that doesn't change the outcome of the election, but it goes into the statistics. It's a number that gets recorded somewhere. But if there's 5 seats available and it says vote for up to 5, and you vote for 6 different candidates because there were 15 different candidates and you liked 6 of them, generally they throw your vote out. They won't count it at all. They won't count 5 of your 6, because how do they know which one of the 6 to throw out to make it 5? Well, that's just wrong. I mean, they know what you wanted. You cast a vote approving of 6 candidates. Why is it that they can count your approval of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 candidates, but they can't count your approval of 6 candidates? It's the exact same process. For each candidate you approved of, add 1 to the approval count for that candidate. It's called approval voting. It's a very old system, and it's much better than what most of the world has right now. Now, there's better than approval voting as well, There are better systems than that. For example, score voting. Approval voting is actually a form of score voting. Full score voting also allows a range. It's sometimes called range voting. Range voting, of course, is the opposite side. It's score voting. That's not approval voting. Approval voting allows you a range of 0 or 1 and nothing in between. Range voting can give you can allow you to cast a vote in the range of 0 to 1 or anything in between, or basically 0% to 100%, or any percentage in between. Meaning, for example, you could give one candidate a full vote, give another candidate a full vote, give another candidate a half of a vote, give another candidate a quarter of a vote, 100%, 100%, 50%, 25%, maybe give another candidate 5%, meaning 5% approval for that candidate. You're not expressing full approval of that candidate. You're expressing some approval of that candidate. And so, range voting, much better than approval voting, but the equipment has to be able to handle it. It's harder to count. It's a little more complicated to teach people. Approval voting is something that we could get all over the country. Everywhere that there is an election that is a single faceted election that says vote for only one, or vote for only up to however many seats are available, replace that instruction with vote for as many as you want, and you've just vastly improved that voting system and increased democracy substantially. So what I would really like to see people do is go ahead and vote. I mean, the Democratic Party, I will say this much. I'm an independent. I'm not a Democrat, but the Democratic Party is at least telling us they're trying to give us more democracy. They're trying to keep what democracy we have. The Republican Party has lately gone completely crazy. And they're basically taking advantage of people's gullibility. They're taking advantage of the fact that people rely on faith rather than evidence, and they're taking advantage of the fact that that people don't proof check, don't fact check things. So they get people to believe a bunch of nonsense and spout it off as if it's true because they believe it, and then other people hear them spouting it off as if it's true, and they take that as verification that it must be true because they heard it too, and now they've heard it from more than one source. Well, that's not how you check whether or not something's true. Just because you heard it from more than one source doesn't mean that they're all correct. There are things you can look into, to learn how to do stuff like that if you don't know how. Disagree about Republicans. It's not absolute. I agree. It's not absolute. And what I'm talking about, I do want to clarify that, and I should have clarified up front. I'm talking about the Republican Party establishment has gone nuts. Ex-president Donald the Rump, or whatever you want to call him. I'd rather not even say his name. I happen to share a first name in common with the guy, and I feel like it's a swear word now. He has basically turned the party stupid. And there are a lot of members of the party, ordinary members of the party, who have fallen prey to that. It's not because they're stupid people. It's because they've been taken advantage of and basically made stupid because people knew how to manipulate them. And I feel sorry for those people. But yes, there are also Republicans who have not fallen for it. A lot of them are leaving the Republican Party because of it. And yeah, and that's the whole thing. Yeah, you're right. Amen to that. Both sides have some tails. Yeah, exactly. The Democratic Party is not great. I will say that straight out. I don't know that we have a great party. The Green Party is pretty decent. But, for example, when the Green Party runs for president, they're not actually trying to win. They know they can't win. I mean, it's not that they technically can't. I actually tried to give them a way that they could win sometime back. If they would have went with it, there's a reasonable chance they actually could have. But they literally told me they weren't interested in winning. They didn't think there was any way to make it so they could win. All they were really trying to do is get enough votes to get matching funds from the federal government. It's all about the money. But in spite of that, I still think they're overall a better party than the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. But they're so small, and we have lots of small parties in this country, and two really huge ones here in the United States. Now, other countries have similar situations for similar reasons. A big part of what's gone wrong is that the people can't say no, and they can't express a multifaceted vote. Now, to be able to do both of those things on the ballot and not end up with people gaming the system, that takes some doing. I actually have a system. If you look on my main Twitter account, the one that's shadow banned, it's under the name Donald Kronos, @ Donald Kronos, with Kronos. Pinned to that account, you can find a very detailed Twitter thread on the Bramier voting system, which I am not advocating for a switch to at this point in time. Great system, in my opinion. It is my opinion. I would rather it be democratically decided if we're going to switch to it, and I would rather that it be done in steps, in stages, with each stage along the way being democratically decided. The first step in that process would be to get rid of that vote for only one restriction. That gets us a step closer to a bunch of better systems, Bramier being one of them. And it's basically free. I mean, it's a free change. I mean, it would take some legislation to get it in place. That's the cost of it. That somebody would have to write up a legislation, and Congress would have to pass it, or the president could make an executive order and get it done. And if the Democratic Party really wants people's votes in the next election, the people should be telling them they have to do that. It's like, give us some democracy. Give us more democracy than we've ever had, because you can, and here's the way. And if you won't do that, then don't try to tell us that you're living up to the name of Democratic Party. It's just a name if you're not going to actually stand up for democracy. Now, they are claiming that they're defending what democracy we have right now. But we've never really had much democracy. We have, first off, we don't have direct democracy. We have indirect, or what they call representative democracy. We elect people to represent us. And if they don't represent us, then we don't have democracy at all, because we're not being represented. And what's more, your United States senator, or you get two of them for each state, your United States senators for your state are not there to represent you. Yes, if you're lucky, they'll try to do that. If you're unlucky, they won't. But they don't have to. They're there to represent the state. That's their job. That's why each state has the same number of them, no matter how many people that state has, because their job is to represent the state. Now, there are a few ways that they can do that. They can do that by looking at taking polls and asking the people, what do they think about stuff and how do they want things done, and saying, well, the people are the state, so we'll do what the people of the state want. Or they can do what the governor of the state says, because the governor of the state is the head of that state. And there are a few other ways that they can do it as well. They can say, well, I was elected to represent the state, and I will therefore make the call of what the state wants. I'm going to try to catch up on the chat stuff here. HQN says, hello. I find that people forgot that they can vote for ideas, not just people and empty promises. Yes, and I'd like to get into some of that as well, because that's another thing we can ask for, and I'll go into some detail about that. United World says yes, great point. Often voting for only one identity. Um, yeah, the way things are, our elections don't allow two good candidates to stay in the race without ending up with neither one of them being able to compete with a bad candidate, because there are going to be people out there who think the bad candidate is doing great stuff because they believe the lies, or because maybe they think this, this bad candidate is actually a good candidate because maybe they said one thing that person likes, like maybe they're pro-life and this person says they're pro-life, or maybe they're pro-choice and this person says they're pro-choice, and that's enough, because there are single issue voters out there who will look at one thing and say, okay, this candidate is representing my one thing. They all about, for example, the Second Amendment, which, by the way, does not mean what most people think it means. But they think, we should all have the right to arm ourselves and defend ourselves with a weapon, carry a weapon around everywhere we go. And they get a candidate who says, I'm all for that. I carry an Uzi on myself all the time, or whatever the case might be. Then they're going to go, okay, well, that I believe that candidate is good for me, so I'll vote for that candidate. They might be right, they might be wrong, but um, that candidate will likely beat out a half a dozen good candidates if those half a dozen good candidates stay in the race. Even if that other candidate that's beating them is terrible, and most people can see it, because the good candidates, who all want what most of the people want, also all want mostly what each other wants. So there isn't a lot of way to distinguish between them. And as a result, people have to decide between them, because we only allow one facet of the vote. If we take away that restriction that says vote for only one, or vote for only up to the number of available seats, and replace it with vote for as many as you want, if a half a dozen good candidates stay in the race until election time, a voter who likes what all of those candidates are standing for can vote for all of those candidates. And somebody who likes what 5 out of the 6 of them represent can vote for 5 of them. Somebody who likes what 3 of them are saying can vote for 3 of them. Somebody who's only heard of one of them but likes that candidate can vote for that one. And maybe while they're looking at the ballot and checking things out, they might do a little research and decide, hey, this other one um, is just as good as the one I was planning on voting for, and maybe they'll vote for them both. But they have to be able to do that before they can do it. Let's see where we got. There's okay. HQN says there's this great game called Off that parallels how having a mission can turn out if turned on a dime. Sorry, just put my reading glasses on for that. Great game called Off that parallels how having a mission can turn out if turned on a dime. It is a great watch. Something to look for. Have a look at. The game is called Off. That sounds kind of hard to search for. I wonder, off the game, or what search you would use to find that. But thank you for that. It's an interesting thing to note. World United says sounds interesting. Sorry, to clarify, I meant by identity that voters vote according to their own political identities, coloring inside the lines. Oh yeah, yeah, voting for, well, yeah, the in group, the personal identification. Yeah, there are people out there who vote by race, or by gender, or both, or by political affiliation, or by sexual preference, or whether someone's sexual preference is normal or not what they consider normal. Again, these are single issue things. but in a sense, they're not really even an issue. They are, as World United is saying in the chat, they're identities. There are people who vote for someone based on their, religious beliefs, even though uh, there is a separation of church from state in the United States of America that that makes it so that people are not allowed to use their religious beliefs to govern. Yes, they can apply their religious beliefs in their own decisions on how to vote for something, but they can't, basically legislate based on their religion and say, our religion says this, therefore this should be law. Not legally anyway. But there are people right now high up in the Republican Party, and some of them very, very prominent, who are pushing for, in their own words, um, uh, Christian nationalism, which is another name for Nazism. Nazi is just it was a German word for national. The National Party was the Nazi Party, and at the time when when World War II was happening, and that party gained a lot of power there. Um, Germany was very much a Christian nation, and so the Nazi Party was the Christian Nazi Party, or the Christian Nationalist Party. Um, there are some people in the Republican Party who have even come right out and said that they're supporting Nazi in one way or another. But then, others in the party will generally tell them, oh, you can't say it that way. You got to say it this way. And so they'll remove that stuff, hide it any way they can. And if it gets brought up, they'll excuse it in one way or another, pretend it never happened. And unfortunately, we've got too many people who don't look into the details of such things. They they live in an echo chamber, so to speak. That they hear from other people who are hearing from the same people they are hearing from, and so they never get to find out what views are out there other than their own. They just think everybody agrees with their views except for um, the people who are like unimportant, who don't really matter. People they don't care about have views other than their own views that they don't care about, uh, and yeah, that's basically as anti-democratic as you can get. It's anti-democracy to say my views matter. If your views don't agree with mine, then your views don't matter. That's just not right. That's not a good way of being. And let's see, I'm going to try to catch this up again. Whereas Tafo says, yet they made a medical treatment restricted regardless of the doctor's decision for their patient. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would like to say something about abortion, by the way. The abortion of a pregnancy specifically. There are people out there who are pushing for a ban on abortion under any circumstances of any kind. And first off, I want to say what that exactly means. Abortion is the stopping of something. If you have a cancer tumor, for example, and you have it killed off by chemotherapy, that is abortion of a cancer tumor. If abortion is illegal, that is an illegal procedure. Now, are they going to push for that? Probably not. But that's how ridiculous the whole thing is, because they haven't bothered to look at what it is that they're really fighting against. If what they're fighting against is an unnecessary death of a fetus, then they should be, putting that in the way they word it. Because first off, there is a distinction between a fetus and a baby. That's why they have different names. There is a distinction between a fetus and an embryo. Again, that's why they have different names. Those are stages in development. There's a distinction between a fetus and an adult as well. Again, those are stages in development. Um, there, in the medical profession, I think there are actually like cutoff points where they say, at such and such an age, we start using the other name. But those are kind of arbitrary. They're more of generalizations of, during this early stage and then this next stage, and I mean, basically though, what they're doing in saying that a person cannot abort a pregnancy, because doing so could end the life of a fetus, is they're saying that a person who has another person growing inside of them, um, has to support that other person growing inside of them, whether they want to or not, at the expense of their own safety, and at whatever other expense there might be involved, and has no say in the matter. So basically, it's protect one individual, but not the other individual. Protect the fetus, but not the adult. And there are better ways to handle that sort of thing. If they really want to have an adult conversation about the issue, they should separate the things that they're talking about, instead of making it pro-life versus pro-choice, and the pro-lifers calling the pro-choice people anti-life people, and the pro-choice people calling the pro-lifers anti-choice people. They should try to meet each other somewhere in the middle, and recognize that they have some common ground. I mean, most pro-choice people don't really care to have fetuses die unnecessarily, but they want it to be, a personal choice that people make without having to have someone complicated interfere with it. Yeah, talk with their doctor about it. Get a medical doctor's opinion on, is this a good idea? How safe is this, for them? Is there another way? Could they, maybe, um, have the fetus extracted early, and have it, put in an incubator, and maybe somebody will adopt it someday. These are things that could be considered, but you got to have an adult conversation about it, and not just go, well, you've got this label, I've got this label, therefore we're enemies. That's not getting anybody anywhere. And the Democratic and Republican Party, I think, will, never really resolve that anyway. They'll take it to some, take it to some extremes within not resolving it. But I don't think either one of them is really willing to completely get rid of that conflict, because it gives them something to pit people against each other. And, well, under the current circumstances, I don't think they will try to actually get rid of that conflict. Um, if we if we get rid of that, vote for only one restriction, they'll have reason to get rid of such conflicts, because people will no longer be in a position of voting for someone as a vote against someone else. Instead, they can vote for all the good candidates and ignore the bad one, because the bad one will most likely be beat by all those votes for good candidates. That's the way things should be. Let's see, where is World United says, I didn't know that they were a Christian party. I thought it was a National Socialist Party. God bless you. Good bless you, by the way. Well, thank you. I like being blessed by good. Yeah, they took on the name socialist for the same reason. They did take on that name, and they took on that name socialist for the same reason a lot of other dictatorships took on the name socialist, because people knew what socialism was back then, and they wanted it. It wasn't delivered to them, by the way. What they got was not actually socialism. It was a label of socialism. Sort of like, when the Democratic Party is labeled as democratic and isn't being very democratic. And again, like I said, I think we can fix that. I really think that, if people push for it and tell the Democratic Party, look, if you want people to vote for the Democratic Party, live up to your name. Fight for us to have more democracy than we've ever had. Don't just try to hold on to what democracy we have. Give us more. And here's an easy way to do it. Just take that restriction off that says vote for only one. Count every facet of a person's vote. Let them cast every facet of their vote, and maybe somewhere down the road, even give them more ability to represent their vote more clearly than that. For example, being able to, as I mentioned, vote 100% approval for one or more candidates, and maybe 90% approval for one or more candidates, and 75% approval for one or more candidates. But that's a harder thing to do from where we are right now. The simplest thing is just remove that restriction. If they can do that much, then they deserve our votes. If they at least are willing to fight for that, then they deserve our votes. But when I say fight for it, I mean actually try. I mean actually write the legislation. And by the way, a thing I wanted to get, I think I hadn't gotten to it from earlier, about people voting for issues. I think we should be able to actually vote for issues, not to make them into law. We're not the lawmakers. Congress is the lawmakers. We're just the people. But we should have the ability to vote on certain things in an actual election of sorts. Not just polls taken by various polling organizations, but in an actual national election. And maybe the states and local whatever should do some similar, but to ask people things like, like the question of, do you think a person should have a right to do such and such, or do you think that such and such should be protected? Just yes or no questions. How do you feel about this? Or which do you prefer, this or this? Now, I would kind of try to stay away from the one thing over another preference thing, because it doesn't give you as much as much information about each of those things. I think, for the most part, better to keep them separate and say, how do you feel about this? Do you approve of it, disapprove of it, or neither? Or give people an option of, express your approval or disapproval from negative 100% for 100% disapproval to positive 100% for 100% approval of a particular idea, and keep them simple. Because when they write a multi-hundred page law, and the legislators have to vote on that, that's not keeping it simple. And all the people generally get to hear about is the title they put on it. If they make some law that if they write up some large complicated law that basically gives away all of our economy to the richest people in our economy, and gives them control of everything, and they call it the More Money for the People Act, that's all most people are going to know about it. It's the More Money for the People Act. And when they vote against that, when the ones who care about the people vote against that, the people are going to notice that and go, oh, they voted against more money for the people. How dare they? So yeah, we should have the ability to actually vote on actual issues, and have those actual votes counted, so that our government officials can look at the statistics from those votes and say, okay, this percentage of the people who voted about this issue voted this way, and this percentage of the people who voted about this issue voted this other way. Therefore, this seems to be what the people want with regard to this issue on the average. Now, that doesn't mean they have to then write a legislation that way, but at least then they know if they want to be popular, it's a good idea to go along with what the people want, and they know what the people want. And if these things were published, if the results of such elections were published for everyone to see, then at least we would know if if the legislators are not trying to put those things in place, if they're not going along with what the people said they wanted. It's a choice they're making. I'm going to have another look here. I like the idea of voting on issues. Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. We should be allowed to do that. And it should be made clear on the ballot, if we're voting to legislate, if we're being asked, do we want to pass a law doing such and such, that should be made clear. If we're being asked for an opinion for our government to be aware of, that should be made clear on the ballot. And I do think that we should have elections that basically amount to opinion polls. It's expensive, but it's worth it. Democracy is a lot of work. We should consider it a sort of job. If you've already got a job, well, then democracy can be your second job. Thing is, if you are a person who has millions of dollars coming in every day, you don't really need democracy. You've got autocracy. You've got plutocracy. You can vote with your money in so many different ways, but most people don't have that kind of power. Democracy is all most of us can even hope for. Oh, um, go back to Tava's comments. Okay, which was the one that I missed? I have one more comment above this one you haven't seen yet, under the good bless you. Okay, I'm gonna go back and look at that. I believe I can scroll back. Taffa says, I was talking about uh, pain management and the restriction and regulation on them, but yeah, abortion too. Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure exactly which topic you were talking about, um, but yeah, yeah, legislation's restricting. Well, I mean, for example, the legalization of marijuana is one. A lot of people use that as a medication to basically help manage their pain. And I've never used the stuff, but I have marched with people in the pro legalized marijuana, part of a gay parade. I'm not gay either, but nonetheless, I've done that in support of their wanting this change to be made, because um, I recognize the merits of it. For one, it's not something that people should be, spending jail time over, using a substance that is less harmful than tobacco, known to be much less harmful than tobacco, and generally used in pretty much the same way. While tobacco users are never jailed for using tobacco, and I'm not saying they should be either. I'm just saying there is a comparison to be made there. And yeah, I'm going to move on back to, let's see, where was I? Oh, what was the rest of that? But yeah, abortion too. Restricting doctors from practicing medicine is politicians practicing medicine without a license. I agree. That is, they should regulate, not restrict, not decide on behalf of the doctor what they can and can't do in their medical profession to help people with things they medically need help with. Um, that's I mean, there may be some exceptions where it's a good idea to do that, but it should be looked at very carefully, and the people should be allowed to at least express an opinion on that, and have our opinions not just expressed but counted. And that's why I say voting on issues is a really, really good idea. um, I missed this. I think World United said making plan B pills, and abortion pills at 1 month more accessible, make it cheaper, because abortion can be very traumatic for the person. Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the whole pro-life issue, I think, in a nutshell. Or not pro-life, the whole pro-choice issue in a nutshell is they're people aren't advocating for, let's kill more fetuses. They're advocating for, let's make things a little easier for people who are going through something very, very difficult. If a person is in a position of they have a fetus that is occupying their body, and for whatever reason they don't feel it's a good idea to let it continue to do that, that is a rough position to be in. And we shouldn't make it any harder. Let them talk with their medical and doctor about it, talk with their psychologist or psychiatrist about it, talk with whoever they need to about it, and get some help dealing with that decision, but not be told you can't decide. It's hard enough. Don't do that to people. So, oh wait, okay, this one here. HQN says we can make it to Mars or have windmills, but a lot of people have to do their part and not smudge the law needlessly. Anyway, got to go. Well, thanks HQN for sticking around as long as you did. Appreciate it, and for making your comments. Much appreciated. And yeah, there are things that we can do. That are not easy to do. And improving our elections is one of them. Getting to Mars is another one of them. Should we go to Mars? Yeah, I think we should. Not all of us, but should we get human beings there to examine the place? Get people to be able to do scientific studies of some of the materials there and the environment. Yeah, is that going to cost a lot? Yeah. Are there other things to spend money on? Yeah, but it doesn't have to be one or the other. We can do both. Again, not necessarily easy, but we have to weigh the costs and the benefits, preferably for everyone, not just for those who are most noticeable, because those who are most noticeable are usually those who least need the help. They're doing fine. Usually, most of them. And yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with caring about someone that you happen to notice, whether it's a famous person, a rich person, whatever the case might be. Nothing wrong with that. But we have to think about the people we're not noticing as well. We have to, if we really want to have a better future, we have to think about the future for everyone, not just the future for the few people that grab the most of our attention. So let's see. And okay, Tafa says, thank you, World United. World United says, you're welcome. Tafa says, my doctor has patients with cancer that can't get enough pain meds due to opioid restrictions made by the same politicians who say gun restrictions won't stop criminals from getting guns. Yeah, and well, and this is another thing. I touched on this earlier. I'm gonna try to go into a little more detail about the idea of odds, and things being predetermined or not predetermined, and what it means to be able to affect the odds of something. When they make the argument of saying that gun restrictions won't stop criminals from getting guns, well, that's true and false depending on how you interpret it. If you take that to mean gun restrictions won't stop all criminals from getting guns, that's true. Gun restrictions will not stop all criminals from getting guns. Some criminals will still find ways to get guns. If you take it to mean gun restrictions won't stop any criminals from getting guns, that's flat out false. Now, some gun restrictions might not stop any criminals from getting guns. Some might stop a lot of criminals from getting guns. Some might stop most criminals from getting guns who otherwise would have gotten guns. And yeah, I heard the notifications on this thing. I need to get my reading glasses back again. Hold on. Let me check and see. Looking. Not there. So close that, and here it is. I think that's what the notifications are coming from. Just give me a moment. Oh. Okay. Well, yeah, by the way, I think I'm going to wrap this up. Tap of Skywatcher, by the way, has her own channel, TAFVSKYWATCHER. If anyone wants to have a look for that. She also does live streaming and generally video games. Don't know if it might branch out into more than that in the future, but anybody who likes to watch video game playing, I don't know if it's up yet. There was one that was sort of being delayed by YouTube in getting to be viewable after the live stream ended, but her last live stream was 25 hours. That's some pretty hardcore gaming. So anybody who likes a little hardcore gaming, check it out. World United says, I'm glad you're making videos again. I need to watch your most recent one. Thought-provoking as always. Thank you very much. I will try to do more of these. I will probably get redundant in some things like the political stuff. I tend to get redundant about such things because we haven't solved the problems yet that are solvable. And so if I make another video and I mention again that we should get rid of that vote for only one restriction wherever it exists, get rid of the restriction wherever it exists on how many candidates a voter can vote for. And if I mention again that ranked choice voting isn't good enough because it still only counts one facet of your vote, I hope people will forgive me for being redundant, but until the problems are solved, we need to keep talking about how to solve them, not just talking about the fact that there are problems. That's not enough. Don't get me wrong, that needs to be done too. We need to occasionally have people, go out in the streets and make a protest and, make it seem that they're upset and, not talking about destruction, but, just visibility. But keep in mind also, I mean, here in Los Angeles, where I live, when people set up a protest like that, if there's going to be a lot of people, whether they get a permit for it or they just take to the streets without a permit, either way, they're basically going to end up with wherever they go being cordoned off, traffic being routed around them, and roadblocks being put up, and whatever the case might be, which makes them barely visible. That's not why it's being done, or at least I don't think that's the main reason behind why it's being done. I think the main reason is for safety's sake, but it still reduces their visibility. I would really like to see people do things like having a protest that stays on the sidewalks and obeys the walk and don't walk signs when they cross streets, and watches out for traffic, so they can stay safe while they protest, and march from Los Angeles to Santa Monica and back, or something like that. Not everybody would make the whole trip, but I mean, if it was planned that they were going to make the whole trip and that some people could join them on the way, if they weren't all in one group, but rather could be in their own part of the street, just walking in one direction or the other, just pick a street like Wilshire Boulevard and just say, let's all march on Wilshire Boulevard between this time and this time, and don't only go out there if you see other people. Get your signs about the things you care about. Doesn't have to be the same as other people's signs. Get your signs about the things you care about, the changes you want to have make, the ways you think they can be made, and join the dispersed crowd. It's you know it's a dispersed rally. This is something I talked about, by the way, a lot long before the pandemic started, and we ended up with the social distancing thing, where people were being told, don't stay too close to other people because you can pass a virus that way or contract one that way, and it should have been done back then. Even more so now because the pandemic is not over; it's still around. It would be a really good idea to make some distributed rallies where people pick a street and stand on a corner on that street and hold up a sign if they if they don't feel up to walking, or pick a direction and walk holding their sign if they do feel up to walking, and let the passing traffic notice them, let the people who live in or work in buildings near there notice them, let the other pedestrians notice them, and try not to get in people's way and not to cause any hazard or danger. um, but yeah, yes, laying down a foundation for the future. That's the idea. um, let's see, where am I at here in the let me scroll back a bit in the chat here. um, since I can actually keep up in here if I want to, because not a lot of people. If I get more people in future ones and I can't keep up, I'll deal with that. But for now, since I can, let's see. World United says like zero point 0.5 rounds up to 1, close enough. Oh, what was that? That's a response to. Hold on. Where I got to go farther back. Um, have email. Also, thank you for giving me a place to safely discuss politics. I don't do politics on my channel because it's a gaming channel, not a political or religious platform. Yeah, I mean, and that's better for viewers as well because they can pick what they're in the mood for, um, out of what's available to watch at the time. And if they don't care whether something they get on something while it's currently live streamed, then um, they can pick it up after it's over with, um, and watch it then on their own time. But if they want to catch a live stream while it's going on, it's also nice if they have a choice of what kind of live streams they want to watch and what kind of content they figure they can expect. So let's see. World United says, I'm glad you're making videos again. Yep, I read that one. Let's see. World Tafo says, World United, it took me doing an almost 24-hour stream to get him going again. Yeah, literally. I hadn't live streamed in, I think, about a year. And I made a short live stream about her 25-hour live stream, intended to start just before she hit the 25-hour mark, but I forgot to click the go live button in StreamYard. And I was talking for a while to nobody, because I wasn't actually live and I thought I was. And then I realized it and I'm like, oh, I gotta hit the go live button. uh, but yeah, so they got me going again. I've been meaning to for quite a while, but not easy. And not saying I'm not, not willing to do things that aren't easy. I do things not only that aren't easy, but even things that I'm told are impossible, because I'm not afraid of the nearly impossible or the supposedly impossible. I will try to do such things until I'm sure they are actually impossible. Then I quit trying. But I think that is a distinction that's important to make. And if you're not sure what's actually impossible, if it isn't going to hurt you to try something that's supposedly impossible, try it. Find out if it can be done. I mean, if you fail, you haven't proven it impossible. But if you succeed, you have proven it possible. And I think that's important to know where such boundaries actually are, not just where they seem to be. Um, World United says, well, thank you, Tafa, for encouraging him. Yeah, thank you. Nice of you. 25 hours, 25 hours. Holy cannoli. That's impressive. Tava says almost 25 hours, a few minutes shy. Um, so I have a goal of 25 hours still. Actually, that's right. That's right. It wasn't at 25 hours that I had meant to start my stream. It was at 24 hours, I think. And yeah, and she went another hour after that. But I ended up starting it like just after the 24-hour mark, because I don't, few minutes after the 24-hour mark, I think, because I forgot to click the go live button. Um, and then afterward, I did my own nearly 7-hour live stream, covering video on another channel, Amy Newman's channel. But yeah, Tafo's marathon 25-hour live stream got me going again. So yeah, around like 0.5 rounds up to 1. Yeah, this would be more like 0.9 something rounds up to 1. But yeah, and I kind of did the same thing with mine. Like I said, it's nearly 7 hours. It was like I think 11 minutes shy of 7 hours, and I was dead tired, so I had to quit at that point. Between the 25 hours and the 7 hours, and the setup in between and everything else, it was too much. Let's see, is coffee fueling you or just pure enjoyment? Tafo says pure enjoyment and desire for my own income eventually. Yeah, she does consider that a job, and I would like to make this into my job as well. That I do have a career in acting, but a lot of people think that is a job. It's not a job. It's a category that you get jobs in, and lately I haven't been getting any. In large part because there's a pandemic going on, and also I've gained some weight, and well, I know it doesn't look like it right now, but looks like I've lost weight, doesn't it? A little humor there, but yeah, I would really prefer to be self-employed, and if I can get my YouTube channel to the point where it suffices for that, that would be great. I don't expect to be able to do that, but I'd like to. And any rate, so let's see, where was I? Amazing, yes, laying down the foundation for the future. Feel that, very cool. Yeah, well, and that is the main reason why I'm doing this. Why I'm speaking about the political stuff, laying down the foundation for the future. Um, it's I'm trying to help us have a better future. I know so many people who stake their whole future on an afterlife that they believe they're going to have a good place in, and they might be right. I don't personally believe there is such a thing as an afterlife that any of us get to go to. I think there's an afterlife in the sense of after my life, life goes on, just not for me. That's why it's called afterlife, because a life ended at that point. And I wouldn't prefer it to be that way, but that's the way things actually seem to be, and I deal with that fact, the fact that things actually seem to be that way. Um, People who don't deal with that and instead say, well, I'm going to dedicate my whole life to the afterlife. I have to ask the question of why. I mean, if their afterlife is going to be forever, which most of them believe it will be, why do they need to waste what little time they have in this world, in this life, preparing for something that they could spend eternity preparing for when they get there and still have eternity left over to spend there prepared for it. If it's just a matter of having done some correct thing to get to the right place in it, you got to ask yourself, how can they know what's the right thing to do? Instructions written by some human being who had less of a clue than they do, maybe. But yeah, this life is something we actually can do something about. And if you want to live in paradise, or um, some ideal world, like what some people refer to as heaven, build it, make it our future, make it happen, because then you don't have any argument of is it real or not. Then there it is, then it is real. I mean, who knows, maybe some of the afterlife stuff is misinterpretations of people coming from the future in some sort of time traveling and visiting the past and saying, hey, where I come from, we live up there, meaning in outer space. Oh, you live in the heavens, meaning the sky. It's like, well, sort of. uh, any rate, let's see, where was I? Absolutely, kudos for being creative and working to solve it with something you're passionate about. If I was a gamer, I would definitely watch. Yeah, I'd suggest checking out her channel anyway. At least have a look. Take a look at some of the videos that she's already done. There's several different games in there, and some of them have some interesting storylines. There's one called Phoenix Rising. It's Fenyx. That's got some Greek mythology in it, and got to be at least as entertaining as most TV programs. Just check it out. It's a recommendation. Any rate, let's see. World United says, LOL. Sorry, Doc. I'm not sure what that was in reference to. No. Not sure. And then next time I'll be more selective with my comments, so you don't need to read so many. Oh, that. Okay. I know you got to go. Well, I don't have to. But yeah, I probably, like I said, should wrap this up. I don't want to make all my live streams marathons. It's an easy thing to do, to just get going and not stop. Very awesome. Let's see. Oh, he got me a camera and some controllers and a few of the games I have. Yeah, I did that. Very awesome that you both support one another. I'd love to hear it. Yep, thank you for that. Like my mom used to say, where there's a will, there's a way. Not always, but where there's no will, more often than not, there's no way. So yeah, gotta try, and yeah, by will, not just it's not enough to just have a will and try to will something into existence by mere thought. Actions speak louder than words, so they say. And I'm not big on sayings, but it is a well-known one. And yeah, it's kind of inaccurate because they're not really speaking so much, but actions get things done. Words can encourage things to get done. They each have their part. Let's see. He's got a brother. Thank you. Amazing. Happy to hear it, especially in times of division. It's a blessing to be close to family. Will do. Knew you were going to say that. Yep. Okay. So I'm all caught up. A little mumbling there. Sorry. Just making sure I've read all of the stuff in the live chat, and yeah. So to recap, we got an election coming up. I don't expect many people will see this video. Um, if anybody sees it and wants to share it, please do. If anybody sees it and thinks other people should see this, please do share it any way you can. Ask other people to share it. Not just for the election coming up tomorrow or later today, depending on where you are. Well, I mean, actually, the election's been going on for a while now. This tomorrow or later today, depending on where you are, that's the end of it. That's your final chance to get it done. If you're doing a mail-in ballot, you got to get it time stamped, post stamped by a certain time. If you're going to a polling place, those are going to be closing sometime in the next day or so, and that's it. Then the votes get counted. Some of them are already being counted, but I mean, then the final counting happens. The votes get finalized, and the election gets decided. The primaries are over. This is the general election, or what I like to call the actual election. The primaries are not actually election. They're well, in most cases, they are a decision-making process for a private organization, a political party. California has an exception to that, something that they call the top two primaries, where they put all the political parties. They don't do this on the presidential election. I forget whether or not. I don't think they do it on any of the federal elections, but local elections, they put all the candidates from all the political parties together, along with any independents, and they run them all against each other in the primaries. And then in the general election, the top two vote getters of all that was in the primary get to go on, regardless of what their political party affiliation is, or lack thereof. And there is some good and some bad to that. The bad part is most people don't really start studying the candidates until after the primaries are over, because they don't know which ones are going to have any chance. And at that point, then you've only got two of them who have any chance, and they might be the two worst. They might be the two best ones, but they might be the two worst. Either way, you're stuck with it, and that's all you've got. What I would really like to see, if they're going to hold on to that, I'd like to see it changed into a top 10, where the restriction of vote for only one is removed. You can vote for as many as you want, and the top 10 vote getters from that election would go on to the general election. That would be a huge improvement over this top two primaries. There are better systems that we could do than that as well. But there again, I'm looking at, this is a California thing, the top two primaries. That's a very simple change that could be made to the top two primaries to convert them into a top 10 primaries. That would greatly improve the election system with very little effort involved, and basically no extra cost involved. I say basically because, yeah, if there are more candidates in the general election, the ballots are going to be a little longer if you make paper ballots. We've got electronic voting machines, so you don't necessarily have to use a paper ballot, but well, yeah, then it still prints it out on a paper ballot. So yeah, there's a little more expense involved, a little more paper used. There's a little more counting to be done, but it's essentially a free change and a hugely positive one. So same thing goes for removal of the vote for only one restriction wherever it exists, or removal of the vote for only up to so many restriction wherever it exists. I count the vote for only one, by the way, as part of the vote for only up to so many, because if you don't vote at all, you're voting for zero. So vote for only one is vote for zero, meaning don't vote at all, or vote for one. It's not much of a choice. I would like to see voters be able to vote for as many as they want. That is a very simple, very small, very positive change that would make a huge positive impact and help us to elect candidates who care about the future of all people, who care about making society better for everyone, and not just those who already think it's great because they are personally doing so well. So yeah, let's push for such positive changes. And if you have other ones in mind, push for them. You don't have to push for the things that I say, but I'm asking you to consider the things I'm talking about. Consider pushing for them, because if enough people do, we could get those changes, and then we can get people elected who will help us to make other changes that you would like to see happen. That's the kicker right there, that because we do not have a direct democracy, but rather we have a representative democracy. If you want to get the changes done that you'd like to have happen, it's not enough to just protest the fact that things are bad. You have to find a way to elect people who will actually represent you. And the way our system is set up right now, the odds are against that happening. We can improve those odds. So pick a candidate. And I hate to say vote for the lesser of two evils, but in this case, if all you've got is two bad candidates, keep in mind somebody out there will be voting for the worst of two evils. So yeah, I would suggest go ahead and vote for the lesser of two evils, but recognize in doing so that you're doing something you shouldn't have been pushed into doing, because voting for the lesser of two evils is still voting for evil, and nobody should make you do that. I'm not going to make you do that. I'm saying in this case, I will suggest it only because we don't have a better way yet. But once you get through this election, once this is over with, whoever gets elected, tell them if they want to keep their job, if they want to still be in there in the future, you're not going to vote for the lesser of two evils next time. You'll vote for the candidate who's actually willing to fight for more democracy for the people. If they, if those that got elected show that they're willing to do that, then yeah, vote them back in. Even if they do other stuff that's crappy, at least they did something to help us out. So, and again, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. These are suggestions to be considered. But yeah, by all means, consider the fact if they do something really good for our future, consider that they did that. And if they're unwilling to, consider that. And yeah, if you really want to make sure that in the next election we get good candidates, tell everybody running this time, tell everybody who gets elected this time, tell everybody who's still in office when this midterm election is over, that in the future you refuse to vote for the lesser of two evils. Not going to do it. If they want your vote, don't be the lesser of two evils. Be something good. And any candidates that are going to run against those in office, tell them the same thing. If you want our votes, don't just be the lesser of two evils. Be something good, and fight for the option to vote for more than one candidate so that good candidates don't have to quit, so that we actually can have the option to vote for them in an election, in the primaries and in the general election, that they will be there. A political party nominating someone, I want to say this very clearly, a political party nominating someone should not exclude other people from being able to run against them. That's a political party nomination. That's basically the political party endorsing that candidate, which carries a lot of weight by itself. That should be enough. They shouldn't be able to say, hey, look, these two candidates both ran for our nomination. We nominated one. The other one, therefore, can't run in the general election. That should not be happening. And the political party should be put in their place and told they can't do that to us. It's not right. Well, I'm being asked to wrap my video up, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oh, Okay, I'll let you know. Okay, okay. So I'm being told they don't want to interrupt. And, all right. Any rate, so yeah, yeah. Push for positive change, and yep. Okay, I better reply to this. Give me a moment. Any rate, yeah, I should wrap this up. Let's see, just a quick reply. Um, oh, hi, send. Okay, so she knows that I got the message. In case she didn't catch that in the video. Anyway, I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. I can make another video maybe later and say that, say something more or repeat the same things or whatever. But this is already long. I don't I don't expect many people are going to catch my closing statements anyway. Um, so oh, okay. So I'm also being told Taffy is going to live stream. I should probably join in there and be there to moderate and help out a little if I can. Um, no, no, it's not Tommy. It's Cat. Any rate, thanks. Um, Vote if you can. You know, not much time left. Uh, Try to consider carefully each candidate. And like I said, in this case, and I have, I don't believe I've ever recommended this before. In this case, I will even go as far as to say, vote for the lesser of two evils. If that's all you've got is the choice of the greater evil or the lesser evil, but demand that they never make you do that again. And that they can end it. And talk about it. If you feel you had no better choice than to vote for the lesser of two evils in order to keep the greater of two evils from winning, talk about that openly, publicly, a lot, and pass the word around that we can fix that. We can make that never have to happen again by insisting that they remove this unnecessary restriction that tells you how many candidates you're allowed to vote for before they'll invalidate your ballot and throw it away because you approved of too many candidates. What kind of an election system is that says we don't want to have so many good candidates that you'll vote for more than one because you had more than one you approve of? No, we want you to express approval for one candidate and one candidate only, even if there isn't one single candidate on the ballot worth your approval. Yeah. So, okay. Um, I will be looking over the ballot and I will be following my own advice. If I see a choice between two candidates, I don't think either one is really good. I will be picking the lesser of two evils and voting for the lesser evil. Please don't blame me if evil gets elected in that respect, because if there is a good candidate, I will pick that one, even if it is one that the odds say can't win, because there is no such thing as can't win. When Bernie Sanders ran for president, he quit to keep from taking it twice. He quit to take and keep from taking votes away from basically the lesser of two evils. And we still could have elected him. It would have been a heck of a lot of work, and some of us did the work. 2020, we tried, but we couldn't really succeed in it. There wasn't enough cohesion mainly because of how things went in 2016. But here in California, and in other places similar. But here in California, we did make, in 2016, we made Bernie a certified write-in candidate for the general election. He was a valid candidate to write in. Most people did not know that. I think most people who did know it did write him in. He got a lot of votes. And I don't think he was very happy about that, because it took votes away from the candidate he didn't want votes being taken away from. But that would have never happened if people had been given the option to vote for more than one candidate. If he would have said, if he would have said, look, vote for me, vote for them, vote for both, you know, just don't let this other one win, and people could have done that, yeah, things would have gone a lot differently. But we have a system that prevented people from being able to cast their full vote. A lot of people wanted to vote for more than one at that point. I did a poll recently, just finished up the poll. If you go to Twitter, username TZDAK, it's letters TZDAK, and look at it should still be my pinned tweet there. It's a poll that I asked people how they felt about whether or not they had ever been in a position of voting for one candidate but wishing they could have voted for more than one. And about half the people who responded in that poll said that has happened too many times. Only about a fifth of the people said that it never happened to them. And yeah, there are people who never even really think about, what if I could vote for more than one candidate? They've never had that option. Why should they think about it? But then there are those of us who do think about such things and realize we're not being allowed to cast our full vote. So where is this one person, one vote, if all some of us can cast is a fraction of our vote? And where is the one person, one vote if we're allowed to cast a multifaceted vote on an instant runoff system that only one facet will be counted from in the final vote results? That's not a full vote. That's a partial vote, and we can do better than that. So let's do better. Let's make this happen. Collectively, we can. Thank you very much.